Welcome everyone. In today's video, I am going to share some stories with you. First story is of a girl who was in 8th grade. She was coming from a wedding and they were going to their home by a public bus. She was sitting with her cousin. Her cousin was sitting at the window seat and she was sleeping in the seat next to her. There was a middle-aged man who was sitting beside her. As soon as he saw her sleeping, his hand went on to her thigh. She got scared, so she woke up but didn't know what to say and how to react in this situation as she literally was a child. After half an hour, she went back to sleep again. Again, the hand came and she woke up. This time she was very worried, so she ran towards her mother who was sitting few seats ahead of her. In the next story, there is a girl who has shifted from her city to a new and big city, and in the city she had to take public buses to go to school as the schools were not so close to her house. And every time if there was no seat for her to sit and she had to stand up and travel, and God forbid if any middle-aged man also happened to be standing near her in the bus, every time without fail that uncle would stand so close to her, basically like sticking to her, and most of the times she felt his thing on her. Her travel journey from home to school and from school to home was already very difficult, but the levels of difficulty were increased by these creepy uncles. Now the third story. A woman in her 20s went to a temple, and this temple is very famous, very big. She didn't go inside the mandap of the temple and she was praying from the outside only. This outside courtyard is very big. So she was standing in a corner doing her prayers. Again, a middle-aged man came and stood just behind her, sticking so close that she could feel his thing on her. Mind you, the temple is very big and she was standing in a corner. Scared, she moves 15 to 20 steps away from him. 10 minutes later, she again felt something touching her. This was again that same man. Scared, she shifted towards her left. He came there as well. Then she shifted towards her right. He came there as well. And I don't know why, but somehow she couldn't get the courage to say anything. Even if she wanted to shout, like she got very scared and she just ran away from the temple. Now you guys might think, who are these women and whose story I'm telling? So first of all, these are not different women. This is the story of one woman only, and that one woman is me. This is my story, and these are not the only events that has happened to me. If I were to explain every time this has happened to me, it would take days for this video to end. So we are going to just cut short with these 3 stories. And I don't think I am the only woman with whom this kind of thing has happened. I think almost all women in India have gone through some kind of trauma similar to mine. When I went onto the internet to see something like this was happening to me only, I found out so many articles, so many stories on Reddit that Indian men are creepy and they make women around them uncomfortable. And then I went on to YouTube to see why this happens, especially with like middle-aged men. Around middle age, what goes in their mind, what happens to them, which acid they are drinking to be doing things like that. And I drew some conclusions after watching a lot of videos. One being, Indians don't have the concept of personal space. Staring, butting their nose into other people's business. Indians feel like it's their birthright to be doing so. Everywhere you go, it doesn't matter if it's a male or female looking at you, this staring game is very strong in India. Another thing is that the female to male interaction is very low, so men usually don't know how to behave around women. Men are sex starved, touch starved, and that is why whenever they see a woman, they just go crazy. And another thing that I read was the concept of male loneliness, that they are so lonely and they have no one to talk to, so they behave in a very weird way and act like that in front of women. When I watch those videos, for me, I can understand the first conclusion. Our society is like this only, we are a staring society and we don't know what is a personal space. So I can understand that. But the last two conclusions, I'm very sorry, but I'm not ready to understand those. The reason why I am not ready to understand it is because the things that were done to me were not done by younger people who have never interacted with a woman, but people who are in middle age. Maybe they have 5 wives and kids, maybe daughters, and they're doing this to a literal child. If a man's loneliness can cause a trauma for them, and it's a very rampant issue, don't you think doing this to small girls, how much it must have affected them? And it's just not one random event that happened to in a very secure society and a very safe society. It just keep on happening. What trauma the women must go through. The middle-aged men are not sex-starved or touch-starved. They have wives, and if they don't have wives, they must have money where they can go, where these services are available. Why traumatize young little girls for this? I think that is why women in India are so sheltered and they keep their guards so up, because they have encountered events like this, and that is why they don't allow men to come close to them so easily, and then men become lonely. I challenge you, you go out there and ask any women in your life, and if you're a woman, ask yourself if this kind of event has happened to you or not. I don't think there is one single woman in India who has gone untouched these events. Every woman have gone through this, and for what? For no reason. There no problem. I think the actions of these so-called elders is in a way hindering the young men who are not doing these kind of things now, because the education is increasing, but still they have to be lonely because women just can't trust these men. And I forgot to tell you, it has happened to me in some of my workplaces as well. And now I feel like the house is the most safest place for me. Apart from going to work, I don't go out anywhere. I don't socialize. I think I may have internalized these traumas. So I believe that if I were to go out, this will happen to me 100%, and I have to be ready for it. Slowly, I became so introvert, I didn't even realize that I was losing my personality. I was losing opportunities for me. I think most part of my personality development has gone, back down again. I don't feel encouraged enough to go out and, do things on my own and be something. I don't feel it. I don't feel like doing it. Don't get me wrong. I love my country. I love my people. I don't want to break the norm of disrespecting the elders. But these people do be making it a little bit difficult for me. Most of the times now, I think of leaving India and never coming back. At least in those countries, I would be able to go out, and things like that would not be very normalized like is in our society. A society which boasts itself to be a society which is matriarchal, a society which respects women, but then these kind of events happen to almost every woman in India. That's it for today's video. If something like this has happened with you, you can share it as well. I would very much appreciate it. And don't come to please defend these people in front of me. Don't do it. I'm not gonna accept it. Okay, thank you. Bye.